What's going on, everybody? This is Stats Over Politics, episode 14 with Kevin Dent, with Toddy. I know we usually go live on Mondays, but there was so much going on in the NBA. We had to get on and give you guys that good.
Oh man, it's been a fireworks show for the past couple of days, day and a half. The trade, obviously the big news: Kevin Durant getting traded to the Suns. I mean, this is gonna be like, where were you when Kevin Durant got traded to the Suns? Moment. I remember when he didn't get traded, but he ended up in free agency when he went to the Warriors, and they were all in the Hamptons. That's what it was, and they ended up calling themselves the Hamptons Five. So I mean, it's just, where were you when Kevin Durant? A lot of people woke up to this news. Shaun, he woke up to everything. So he was texting. We were going crazy in the group chat. And I was like watching a movie. I was at it was shout out to Bear. It was Bear's it was his birthday. So we were all kind of chilling, watching a movie in the living room, and then I saw you text the group chat, and I was like, wait, what? I just saw it was like a picture. So I was like, what did he send? Like, and then I started looking, and I was like, but it said that they're like in talks about it. And then you texted and said, but then I went on Twitter and was like, whoa, like shams, woes. You see Cam Johnson, you see Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, 4 picks, a pick swap. I thought to be honest, I thought it was gonna be like 6 picks and like 3 players. But
I mean, shit, they still got the haul.
Yeah, they got a crazy haul. A lot of wings on that team now, so it's kind of weird how the team is kind of constructed now.
So let's get into it, man. How far do you think this team can go now? What do you think about Chris Paul now having to be a third role? I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, this team already kind of went to the finals. We kind of all forget the COVID year, kind of getting over COVID. The Suns were just in the finals like a year ago, and went to the Western Conference. Or they got outed last year against Luka and the Mavs. So this team kind of has a rapport being in the playoffs. We've seen D-Book in the playoffs. We've seen what Chris Paul can do in the playoffs, and kind of just be able to lead this team. Kevin Durant has championship DNA, being in Golden State and kind of seeing what it's like to, be around Steph, Clay, Draymond, Steve Kerr, and that winning culture that they have. So kind of what he was looking to bring to Brooklyn, he's definitely going to be able to bring to the Suns team. Now, obviously, Chris Paul does not have a ring, nor does Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. I think the leadership, it's kind of going to be, Kevin Durant's not really a leader. He's not a guy that's going to come in and be like, he's not a rah-rah guy. It's kind of a guy that I'm just going to come in and I'm going to give you 30. I'm going to give you a quick 30. And Devin Booker's another guy who could give you, hey, here's 30 points over here. I got 30 points, 60 points right there. And Ayton could be a guy who can be the Chris Bosh type. When we saw LeBron, D-Wade, Chris Bosh, the Heatles kind of get together, he could be that Chris Bosh type. He doesn't have to give you 25 a game. He can give you 15. He's got to up his rebounds, though. He's got to be able to give you 15. I got to give you 12, 15. He's got to be a double-double machine from this point on. And Chris Paul's a guy who is not selfish with the ball at all. He's a guy that's going to give you 14, 16 assists and have 6 points. So I think this team is very top heavy. Obviously, they don't have a lot on the bench, but I think it might start to fill out with the buyout market. And we're seeing Reggie Jackson kind of be out there. A guy to kind of watch out for that no one's really talking about is Carmelo Anthony. I kind of want to see if, Carmelo's kind of been in shape a little bit. Hey, man, let's go win. You want me to play on the vet minimum? Let's go ride, man. Let's go make this happen. So I think the Suns team has just a whole bunch of mini magicians on it. CP, D-Book, and Kevin Durant. But right now the Suns are like in 10th. So they gotta do a little bit of winning. D-Book's kind of getting back into the swing of things now, coming off an injury. And I think he'll soon be off minutes restriction, and then Kevin Durant should be coming back after the All-Star break. So, man, this team's going to be it's hard to say they're not favorites in the West, right? I mean, like, overnight, they're championship contenders. I mean, it's crazy to see that the Suns team, who's already like we've said, been to the finals the last year, and now they get a new owner, and in an hour they're trading for Kevin Durant. So it's kind of like, all right, like let's ride, right? So just happy to see, KD, I guess, get out of Brooklyn, and kind of that team is a little bit in shambles now. And I'm just excited for the playoffs, man, just to see like how, we're going to get into all these teams. But I mean, the Mavs, the Lakers, the Suns, the Nuggets, Clippers. So this Western Conference is stacked, man. And it's only gonna get tougher from here on out.
Man, I agree with everything you said, but the one thing you didn't bring up is Chris Paul's injury history.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that can hold this
the
team.
Playoffs. He's been a guy, you can even go all the way back to his Clipper days, just being hurt. Lob City, obviously, when they had, don't mean to cut you off, when they had the Warriors, they had the Warriors on the ropes up 3-2. And Chris Paul, hamstring, man. So that's something that my cousin has always brought up, that Chris Paul's a guy that you can't pay. He's old, and he's always hurt in the playoffs. So, yeah, but go ahead, continue.
Well, no, that's not all I was gonna say. But it's just crazy to think that they can go as far as they want, but if Chris Paul goes out, it's gonna be hard because both Devin Booker and Kevin Durant want to go get theirs. Distributing is probably the last thing on their mind. And like you mentioned earlier, it's gonna come down to DeAndre Ayton. He's gonna have to play like that number 1 draft pick. He wanted his money. He got his money. He's gonna go out there and play it. He's averaging 19 and 10. He can do that in his sleep. You watch him out there, and it looks like he's just kind of going out there. He can score 8 points against the Rockets and then 12 points against the Nuggets. He's really inconsistent. But if he can get some consistency going, I think the Suns could be really scary.
And I think with with Kevin Durant coming to this team, I think that it relieves a lot of pressure off of DeAndre. Like, oh, you're giving me damn near max money, and I don't have to score 30 a game, 25 a game. This does wonders for DeAndre, and I think he's going to have to just fit into this role of a guy who can spread the floor. He's going to have to be able to block shots and rebound, kind of. And he's a guy that can score. He was a top pick, in recent drafts. So I think that DeAndre Ayton is just going to be a guy that he's going to just fit into a more glorified role player, because he doesn't really need to score. You have, like I said, you have Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. That's 30 and 30 right there. You could kind of just pick your poison with that. So it'll leave a lot of open holes, I think, for DeAndre Ayton going into it. And like I said, we already have Chris Paul, a guy who loves to distribute the ball. So it's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of pressure relieved off of him. And I think that he's going to just fit right in. And he's probably going to give you, like you said, 19 and 10. That's going to be kind of around where he's going to be. Now, a lot of his shots are going to be taken because KD and D Booker are going to take most of those shots because they're both coming back from injuries. So I would like to see how he's going to fit into this, this new Suns team.
So who's the third option, Chris Paul or DeAndre Ayton?
It has to be DeAndre Ayton. You would think Chris Paul, like I said, he's just going to be a guy that's, all right, D-Book's over there in the corner, KD's on the low block. Here, clear out the lane for Ayton to post up real quick. So I don't think Chris Paul he's kind of, I think with this year and just how they've kind of been, he's just been a more distributor. He's not really a guy, even in recent years, that's just I'm going to go out and have to score. But I think we saw that a lot into the playoffs when they went on their finals run. We saw CP go crazy for 30 or go for 35. And some of those finals games where he felt like he had to take over, he doesn't have to do that. He has Kevin Durant on his team now. Kevin Durant's going to be a guy that we've seen go for 50 in playoff games where he's shooting turnaround threes and his foot's on the line and all this, that, and the third. So this is a blessing for the Suns, where Kevin Durant relieves a lot of pressure from guys, and he's a guy who's extremely efficient. He doesn't have to score 30 off of 28 shots. He can score 30 off of 10 shots and shoot the rest at the free throw line. So, and it's going to be a lot of mid-range from a lot of these guys because KD, D-Book, and Chris Paul all shoot the ball from mid-range. So I think that DeAndre Ayton is definitely going to be the third option here. I don't think Chris Paul has any problems with taking a back seat, especially where he's at in his career and the position that they're in now. I think that they're favorites in the West, so he kind of is like, okay, let me not fuck this up.
There you go. So we can't talk about the Suns and not talk about the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets got Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, Cameron Johnson, and what, 4 picks?
Yep. And
They,
they got a pick swap too.
And a pick swap. They got the haul. You know, we were all summer people talked about what the package would look like for KD, and after Rudy, you know, if that's what you get for Rudy, Kevin Durant, you know, that kind of set the market. So, Todd, do you think this was did the Nets get fleeced, or was this a good deal?
Well, I kind of thought this was the going rate for Kevin Durant. Kind of, I thought there was going to be a little bit more. Like I thought Ayton or CP would have been a part of this deal, but for them to be able to keep those two guys and still be able to maintain and get Kevin Durant, yeah, the picks were going to be there. I thought Kevin Durant would at least went for 6 first round picks. And maybe I would even been surprised if we would have saw 7 and like 3 players. I would have been like, it's Kevin Durant. Like, I get it. So he's a Hall of Famer. So it's kind of just like, okay, yes. So now it's kind of like, all right, Brooklyn, you're what are they, the 3rd or 4th seed in the East. I think we're going to see them come down a little bit. They just have a lot of young talent. Like you said, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges. I think Mikal Bridges already got paid in the offseason. Cam Johnson's looking for a new deal. Cam Thomas is a guy that we've seen have 40 in the past 2 or 3 games. So are they going to look to kind of build around him? Is this his team? Spencer Dinwiddie is a guy who's already been in Brooklyn. So Jaevon, I think, who's a solid coach. You know, you're just looking at this team and like, all right, who's going to play? Like, where does Ben Simmons fit in all this? Is he starting? Is he coming off the bench? What are his minutes going to look like? Is he going to be closing out games? So this Brooklyn team is very long. I think they're young and they have a lot of guys who we all like, but we don't really love. Like I said, Cam Thomas, we don't know too much about him. Yes, he did score 40 in these past few games. It was a stat that, you know, LeBron is one of those guys that has only done that. So a lot of promising things. Do they still get into the playoffs? Probably as an 8 seed. Maybe they could play in and kind of battle it out. This team, they have a lot of picks. So maybe this is just a team constructed for the summer where they're kind of like, all right, here's this, and that. We can make this happen. And maybe they kind of use this as, you know, trade bait, just use all their assets, and maybe they try to, you know, build up and maybe go after a free agent in the summer, or they, you know, kind of just start over and just build draft capital. And, you know, this Nets team now is kind of like, you're thinking about it as, are they the best shoulda, woulda, coulda been team in the history of the NBA, having James Harden, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and for them to only play 16 games with each other is mind-boggling. I remember that was another one of those trades when you saw James Harden. Where were you when James Harden got traded to the Brooklyn Nets? And, you know, for them, the worst part about it is everything that went down with Brooklyn, it's kind of was, unfortunately, just injuries. I feel like if guys wouldn't have gotten hurt and then, you know, the vaccine and all that, and I feel like if just guys were healthy enough to just play and they were able to play games with each other, it would have been scary hours, as Ben Simmons once said. But yeah, now you're kind of, Ben Simmons is the lone one left now, and he's kind of just stuck there. And obviously, we saw him at the trade deadline. He didn't have any trade value whatsoever because, you know, he's not playing. He's kind of just not really affecting the game. So this Brooklyn Nets team is just another scrappy team, I'd say. But I wouldn't be shocked if they missed the playoffs, but I think they still make the play-in.
Definitely. I think they're definitely a playing team. And, you know, starting over wouldn't be bad. You know, a lot of people look in the draft for wing defenders. With Cameron Johnson and Mikal Bridges, that's what you got. Mikal's coming in averaging 16, 5, and 4. Shooting.
Those numbers will probably go up.
Oh, 100%. He's going to be one of the go-to options. You know, he's shooting 38% from the 3.
Yeah.
You know, he came second, I believe, in Defensive Player of the Year last year. So he got that going on. Cameron Johnson's coming from an injury, but he's been balling ever since he got back, shooting 45% from 3. You mentioned they have, you know, the the Cams everywhere. They got Cam Thomas coming off the bench. You mentioned with his 40 points, being in a club with LeBron James is insane today. For someone who's been kind of sitting on the bench all year, and you get 3 games and you go out there and you put up the 40 balls. I think the starting five would be Spencer Dinwiddie, Mikal Bridges, Cam Thomas, Cam Johnson, and Claxton. They have a big man as well, bringing off Finney, Seth Curry, Joe Thompson, Royce
They got
O'Neal.
shooting.
I mean, they got it all. And, bringing Ben Simmons off the bench, I don't really know what that's going to bring. You could take that as you like. I think Ben Simmons can still do something. He just has to have a lesser role at this point. Just go out there and literally pass the ball and rebound.
Pass the ball and rebound.
You're a center at this point. Just go out there and do that.
He's damn near 7 foot. I mean, hey.
Yeah. So,
I just, like I said, Ben Simmons just kind of has to find his way on this team. One time, he was once an all-star at one point, one of the top defensive players in the league. You would like to see a little bit more dominance from him, but I just think, he's kind of I think it's just all mental with him. And he just has to find his way back. And, I hope he does, but right now it's just not looking so good for him. But as far as this Nets team is constructed right now, they have a lot of wing players and a lot of draft picks, and they have solid shooting, I think. Like I said, I think this team probably still gets into the play-in barely, but I don't think they will last as a 3rd seed for very long.
Oh, definitely not. So we have some other big trade news. If you're a Laker fan, you would say this is big news. If you're a regular NBA fan, they're just scrapping for parts at this point. We all know they really wanted Kyrie Irving, and you couldn't get Kyrie Irving, so Rob Pelinka had to pivot, bringing in Mo Bamba, Malik Beasley, Devon Reed, Jaron Vanderbilt, and D'Angelo Russell coming back for his 2nd time. Toddy, what were your thoughts on that package?
Ice in my veins. D'Lo's back, man. Come on. I think the first, wow thing for this Lakers trade is you got rid of Russell Westbrook. The contract's out. I think a lot of people were like, this guy's making like 40 something a year. And people were saying that he didn't really fit into this Lakers team, just the way that he plays, and his skill set is starting to age out. Not really being able to stretch the floor in key moments, and definitely in clutch moments too. At the end of games, he's not really in games because people just sag off on him. I think this is a win for the Lakers. I think the Lakers are a better team as of today. Adding a D'Angelo Russell, a guy who can stretch the floor, Malik Beasley, another guy who can stretch the floor, and then Jared Vanderbilt, a great defensive player. You add a Mo Bamba, he can shoot relatively well. I just don't think he was getting a lot of minutes in Orlando just because it was kind of a little bit clustered there, having a winning Gabriel or not winning Gabriel, he's on the Lakers. Wendell Carter Jr., Jonathan Isaac, who they were trying to bring back from injury. Obviously Paulo Banchero, who's over there. I think, and obviously Bobo, the assertness of Bol. So I think over there with the Magic, it just kind of got a little bit clustered over there, and so he didn't really fit into what they were trying to do, and so they were just like, hey, we'll trade for you. The Lakers and Rob Pelinka made that deal happen. So I think ultimately LeBron's gonna figure out a way to have him, make this team gel, and this team's gonna have to figure it out quick because they're 13th in the West, and the West, as we know today, is stacked, and they're going to have to fight, scrap, and claw their way into a play-in and try to hopefully get into the playoffs. But I think this team, I don't think the Westbrook team was a playoff team. The team that they have now, I think, is good enough. I think the shooting got better. They're adding in Austin Reeves, who's coming back from injury. So I think this team can make some magic happen. D'Angelo Russell, who has been a little bit inconsistent with scoring the ball, but I think, being able to play, having the ability to play off the ball and being able to stretch the floor, it's going to help because LeBron needs shooting, obviously. We know that he just broke the all-time scoring record, obviously. I think we'll probably get into that a little later. But I think this Laker team is probably playing first or second round exit. Now, anything can happen when LeBron gets into the playoffs, but I think right now, as the West is constructed, this team probably gets into the playoffs but loses first round.
Definitely. I won't be the first. I'm gonna have to be the first one to say it, man. I think D'Angelo Russell should have never not been a Laker. It's obvious to this point that he's better than Lonzo Ball, which is
Yeah.
the reason that he was sipped out. D'Angelo's already been an All-Star. He's led a team to the playoffs. That young Brooklyn team before the Kevin Durant and Kyrie takeover.
Yeah.
They were young and they were going. I think they played the Sixers in that series, and it was consistent the whole way through. They had Karis LeVert on that team. They were doing it all.
Wasn't that when Ben Simmons got into a fight with somebody? It was like Jared Dudley. Wasn't that the same series? I'm pretty sure that was.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
But yeah, no, he's shooting 40% from three, and like you said, the catch and shoot's got to be there. With Mike Beasley coming in and bringing shooters, what the Lakers desperately needed, like you mentioned. So I think it's gonna really help improve with LeBron and AD off the ball. That's all they really need is having Westbrook, Pat Bev, and freaking who else? Schroeder all on the court at the same time.
Yeah.
It's ugly. It's ugly. So another part of that trade was a first from the Lakers, Russ Westbrook, and the Timberwolves, Mike Conley goes to the Timberwolves. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, Mike Conley is reunited back with Rudy Gobert. Obviously, them playing in Utah together, kind of been able to, I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be, it's going to be different. Ant-Man's going to have a veteran with him, a respected vet that's kind of been in the league and kind of been able to see the ins and outs of the playoffs there and that. And I think this deal is kind of just saying, all right, Ant, this is your team, man. We're gonna let you go and make it happen. People are forgetting that Karl Anthony Towns has been injured, and this team has kind of been able to stay afloat without 25 and 12 a game, which is usually kind of what he averages. I think adding a Mike Conley is just kind of just another facilitator, a guy that's going to be able to get Ant the ball, who can score when he needs to. And kind of just be able to help this team win in any which way. I think that they do. I think the Timberwolves, man, the way that the West is just constructed right now, it's tough, man. They're gonna be. I think they'll be back into the play-in, but I think anything can happen there. And the Mike Conley edition was definitely solid. I think it fits Ant a little bit more. Then D'Angelo Russell is a guy who kind of is, I'm about to go get my buckets versus looking for him and, making sure he's getting to his spots and being able to, kind of just affect the team in a different way. So it was a solid move all around. I think this will help Ant tenfold.
This dude Wes love what Jordan was. For audio-only listeners, Wesley has some comments for us. He's a big T-Wolves fan. He's asking us if we were going to talk T-Wolves, and of course we have to talk T-Wolves after the Mike Conley edition. Bringing in a point guard with the playoff experience, and he's a vet, and that's what they need. Like I mentioned, Toddy, having D'Lo around, he's a go-first point guard. And with Ant, and they were always battling in the backcourt, but now it's like you mentioned, the backcourt's open. It's Ant's team. I really am wondering if Cat's going to want to come back and play by that. I think Cat still thinks it could be his team. But now they've both been an all-star, So you got to throw that in there. They've both been an all-star. And while Cat's been hurt, they've been playing well. But to throw the biggest thing about Mike Conley is him and Rudy Gay. They already have that experience. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to play a big role into it as well.
Rudy Gobert.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Rudy Gobert, that's what I meant. But yeah, so I think that's just going to be a deadly connection, bringing that over from Utah. So I think that's going to really play a big role with them pushing in for hopefully a playoff spot, I believe. I think they're too good to make a play-in. But, with Ant being so young, we don't know if he's going to be ready to get in there and be a top six. So
I was listening to Austin Rivers' podcast, and he was saying that just the way that how they've been playing, and they haven't been playing without Karl Anthony Towns, and, the him and Rudy dynamic has kind of just been there, and they don't know what that looks like because when they were kind of together, they were still trying to figure out how to play. But ever since he's been gone, they've been kind of playing above average, but then he's obviously going to come back. So they're kind of going to have to figure out a way to, mix in Mike Conley and a Rudy Gobert and a Karl Anthony Towns all together with, Ant-Man, who I think is the star of the team. So this team is, I think they're 10th in the West right now. So they're another team that's going to have to climb as well, and scratch and claw their way into the play-in and just figure it out and how to be able to win games.
Definitely. So, those were a lot of the big trades. Were there any small minor trades that you think might have helped the team get better?
Um, Definitely. I like the Clipper or not the Clippers, the Hawks getting Sadiq Bey. Sadiq Bey is a guy who can stretch the floor. I think he shoots pretty well from three. He's another wing guy that obviously can stretch the floor, 3-and-D guy, who is a guy that's kind of been, forgotten in Detroit. And he's a guy that can go for, a 30 on a crazy night and just be able to stretch the floor. And another 3-point shooter to add for Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. I'm not sure if Sadiq starts, but I do think he does make them better. I think he can start. He could kind of come in and probably just come off the bench for a couple of games to kind of work his way into the starting role. I wouldn't be shocked if he does start. But I think this is a great addition for the Atlanta Hawks. They've kind of been a team that's kind of just been, teetering around 500. I think this pick or this trade can definitely, kind of get them into that maybe 7-6 range, in my opinion. So I'd say the Sadiq Bey trade was probably my favorite trade, besides all of the craziness kind of going out.
Yeah, no, I think another low-key trade that went through that I think a lot of people didn't really talk about, but we did in our group chat, and that's Jay Crowder going to the Bucks. We haven't seen Jay Crowder in a couple months since the playoffs, but if we get the Jay Crowder that we're all expecting him to be, I think that's going to help the Bucks a lot. I mentioned in the previous episode that I believe that the Bucks needed to be buyers, and I believe that they were able to make the room. They got rid of George Hill, and they were able to bring in Jay Crowder, and I think that's going to be nice. But,
Go ahead.
You're all good.
Well, I mean, Jay Crowder hasn't played in almost a year. I'm not too sold on it. I think he's a good player. I just don't know if he's just we're gonna win the championship now because Jay Crowder's on our team. I think he's a very solid player, a guy who can stretch the floor. One of those guys, a Draymond type, not really afraid to get in someone's face, can knock down an open three. He can score the basketball. Like I said, he hasn't played in a while, so I'm not too sure how much of a. I think he'll help them, but I don't think the reason why the Bucks are the Bucks is because of Giannis Antetokounmpo is dropping 50, 45 and doing all this crazy. Drew Holiday's playing lights out. He's all-star. I think Jay Crowder's going to help them kind of just, create an identity for them and just be very scrappy into the playoffs and, have a guy to watch out for Giannis. So, Jay Crowder is free. He said to cut off his finger and call him because 99's back. So, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, just go look at his Twitter and what he tweeted after he got traded. So he was pretty ecstatic after, receiving the news that he's going to be a Buck and going to Milwaukee. I thought that was a solid trade. Another trade that me and you are very fond of was definitely the Knicks and Portland Trailblazers trading for Cam Reddish.
Hell yeah, baby. Cam.
A guy that, we didn't really think gets a lot of shine. We've kind of mentioned it on the podcast before, how Cam Reddish has been a guy that, a lot of guys in the NBA now are, when they played back in high school are saying, yeah, Cam gave me 50. He gave me 35. He gave me 40. So we just want Cam Reddish here to get a lot of love from the Stats Over Politics podcast. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review. I think Cam just needs – I think he started tonight. So I just think he needs a place to just play. Let him play. And just he'll be able – he's going to show you why a lot of these guys are talking about him. We even saw Jamal Crawford tweet about the Cam Reddish trade and say this is a guy that's, a lot of people aren't really talking about. He's a bucket getter, man. So really love that Cam Reddish trade to Portland. And besides, he's playing next to Dame, man. Come on. It's crazy. Man.
Damn, and with Cam – and it's crazy to think that he's been starting. He's been sitting on the Knicks bench. First game in Portland. He don't even got a place to stay yet, and he's in the start lineup. It just goes to show what the whole league believed in him. The Knicks, they were playing Deuce McBride over him, and it was getting ugly over there. They already, talking about Crowder in Orlando. it's definitely crowded over there in New York.
Well, we kind of know that, Thibodeau is a guy that's defense. So he can care less if you can score 30. He's a guy who's like, all right, can you give me 5 steals and block 20 shots in a game? He doesn't really care. Oh, you can give me 17 off the bench and shoot this and that from three. And can you defend the passing lane? Can you deflect balls? Can you dive on the floor for loose balls and block these shots and get these rebounds? So I just think the fit over there probably wasn't what Cam was really accustomed to. I think with this Blazers offense, they get up and down the floor. Obviously, Damian Lillard, he can give you 70 on any night. So I think this team fits him very well, and he'll definitely grow accustomed to it.
Definitely, man. Jumping back to the Eastern Conference, man, the number 2 pick in the 2020 draft, James Wiseman, for 5 second-round picks. James Wiseman, the number 2 overall pick. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, Detroit is going to get a guy who's going to come in. He's going to start. You could just say James Wiseman didn't fit the timeline, I guess, for the Warriors. Maybe they didn't really, the injury probably played a bigger role than they thought it did, kind of going into it when they drafted him. So I think Wiseman is going to come in and, he's going to get a lot of minutes with the Detroit Pistons. He just doesn't really play. And obviously he was hurt and he got a ring. From barely
he's got a hoop.
from barely even playing. So I just think, Wiseman showed a lot, at Memphis, playing with Penny Hardaway, and he played, I think it was like 10 games, and then the whole fiasco of him taking money. This was like right before NIL. So we haven't really seen him play too much basketball in recent memory. So Detroit is just a team that just has a bunch of young players, with Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Marvin Bagley, as a bunch of Kings fans are pretty familiar with. So Wiseman's going to come in. I think he's a guy. I'm kind of a wait and see guy on James Wiseman. We don't really know what he can give you because, being on a Warriors team that's just so loaded with guys everywhere, they don't really need a big man, and that's kind of just been what the Warriors have just been criticized for. We need a big. We don't need more shooting. We don't need this and that. They draft James Wiseman. He ultimately is just, just hurt and not really able to play. And so the Warriors kind of, trade back for they end up using those 5 second round picks and trading back for their guy in Gary Payton II, who I guess the trade might not go through because Gary Payton Jr. didn't pass the physical, I guess. Me and you were talking about that kind of right before the pod, so that's a whole nother story there. But I think James Wiseman is going to be a guy that can kind of come in and, he just needs to play. I think we kind of just want to all see him play. He definitely has the talent there. I would love to see him with a healthy Cade Cunningham next year and kind of see what this team will look like. They're a very young team, so they're kind of probably going to suck for a little bit, but I think they'll be very exciting. Kind of like how the Magic are, a very exciting young team with just a lot of young guys ready to kind of get up and down the court. And I think James Wiseman, he's going to start, I think, for sure. So I just very curious to see what this team kind of looks like, with Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Marvin Bagley, as I already said, but he's hurt again. Wiseman kind of out there. So, and a Bogdanovich, a guy who we kind of thought was going to be able to get moved during this trade deadline. So, very weird team that's kind of constructed, but I think Wiseman's going to come in and start, and he's probably going to give them good minutes. So, he was the number 2 overall pick. So, he's supposed to be a guy that's to be, one of the top players in the league. So, when the Warriors are kind of trading you away and this, that, and the third, it could be a red flag for most other people. But we just haven't really seen him play. So I would like to see what he looks like, in Motown.
Yeah, man. He was killing the G League, man. I was seeing it. The numbers he was putting up 30 and 15, 30 and 18. I feel like he could play, but like you said, he just didn't fit the timeline. And I also think the Warriors didn't believe Kevin Looney was going to be this consistent. Kevin Looney doesn't get enough credit, man. Board man gets paid. That's why he got paid.
Board man gets paid.
Board man gets paid. He holds it down. He's able, a lot of people give it to Draymond Green, but Kevin Looney is one of the people that holds down that defense. And, like you mentioned, the injuries really set him back. Like you said, since college, he hasn't been playing. So, we've only seen a little small sample size. They passed up on people like LaMelo Ball, Tyrese Halliburton. You can only imagine what that would look like.
I wanted the Warriors to draft him, LaMelo. People were saying, oh, they got Steph, they got Clay. I was like, you can have LaMelo run point and just have the greatest shooters ever run around. And LaMelo kind of just figure it out there. We kind of always see these guys and just, we see Jalen Green, we see a James Wiseman, we see, all these young guys, and they go to shitty teams. But when you see, if you would see one of those guys like a JG or a LaMelo play with Steph, Clay, and Draymond, they're learning so much more just being around championship DNA and kind of just, seeing what it's like to be a champion versus being in a Charlotte and playing with freaking, for Michael Jordan where, their guys are kind of just all over the place. So, it's all about where you get drafted to and your organization and, kind of how the team that's constructed around you. And man, it would have been crazy to see LaMelo get drafted by, the Golden State Warriors. He would be light years ahead in his game on where he is today than, kind of just being in Charlotte and just being able to kind of do whatever the fuck that he wants. And, I think LaMelo kind of has, Charlotte by the nutsack, like, hey, like I'm the guy here. And I'm the reason why, people want to come see me play is because, I'm LaMelo Ball, this, that, and the third. So it's going to be very interesting to see him in the next years when contracts come up. Is he going to resign and want to stay there, or is he want to go out and win? So that's, yeah. We went on the LaMelo Ball rant and what coulda, shoulda, woulda,
woulda, man.
But Ant was already going to go number one in that draft anyway.
I think Melo should have went.
I mean, yeah. Imagine Anthony Edwards on the Warriors. That would have been insane.
Yeah. But all right, man. Let's just jump into another one. Another low-key trade that a lot of people might not have paid attention to. It's not a real big name, but the Los Angeles Clippers made some noise. They were able to get Bones Highland, Eric Gordon, and Mason Plumlee. Hey man, breaking news, they were able to get rid of John Wall. Back to Houston he goes after all that stuff he said on the podcast. How do you think the new look Clippers look?
Well, I think he's hurt. John Wall going back to he's gonna get waived anyway. Eric Gordon, he was a guy that was, on those early Clipper teams. He was on those Lob City teams, I think, with, BG and, Chris Paul. Just a guy coming off the bench and just be able to get buckets. He's now the vet coming back, giving guy, that probably replaces Reggie Jackson in scoring, coming from Houston, just, being the vet over there and kind of just letting those guys do whatever it is they do over there. And then Bones Highland, man, Bones, a rookie. Second year. And kind of just coming in and just a guy that can just get you buckets off the bench. Not really sure why the Nuggets traded him away. That's another story for another day. But you're getting a guy that can come off the bench and just be able to just flat out score the basketball. So, obviously PG and Kawhi are the two main guys, but when you get and then them being able to add Plumlee is kind of a little bit more just depth. I think Bones in the playoffs is going to come very clutch for them. Just being able to get a guy that can come off the bench and just score and create his own offense besides a Paul George and besides a Kawhi Leonard. So Eric Gordon, obviously, he's going to be a guy that can stretch the floor for you. You lose a Luke Kennard. I think Gordon kind of, fills that void of being able to score from three. And definitely thought this Clippers team is better. This is just more, this is just shaking up the Pacific Division even more, man. I mean, every single team in the Pacific Division got better except for the Sacramento Kings, which kind of sucks. And I know we'll get into the Kings a little bit later, but definitely thought this Clipper team got better. And they're going at it with the Bucks right now. I think they're up 3, if I might not be mistaken. But this Clippers team, and this could be a move for when PG and Kawhi sit out. They've been playing usually as of lately, and then this isn't a team. This is still a team that could still probably get wins even when their stars are out. So I think this Clippers team, kind of seeing everything that was going down in the West, they had to make some noise, and I think they're one of the teams that won for sure at the trade deadline.
Like you mentioned, Bones Highland, I think that's going to be huge for them. They shipped out Reggie Jackson and John Wall, Toddy. So I think that means he's going to be the starting point guard.
Bones is the starting PG?
I looked at the roster, bro, and there's not another point guard on the roster. I know you got PG, you can run the show, but
they might go big and just have Norman Powell in there. Or Eric Gordon. They might do Eric Gordon, PG. Oh, yeah, Bones could start. Because we were kind of always talking about, like, Bones is a guy, if he weren't on the Nuggets, he'd probably start on other teams, right? So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see Bones starting. That would be crazy. That'd be a great starting 5. Bones, PG, Kawhi, shoot. The twins. Morris. Is Morris still on the team?
Morris is still on the team.
Yeah. So Morris and then Zubats. Yeah, for sure. That would be What are they, 4th? I think they're 4th right now in the West. Could be wrong.
Yeah, adding Eric Gordon to that bench that's already long.
Eric Gordon would probably be the guy that comes on the bench, and then you have Bones starting. Okay. Clippers are 6th right now, so they're 6th in the West. But that whole Western Conference is up and down right now, for sure.
Well, let's stay in the Western Conference, man. The Sacramento Kings, currently in 3rd place.
They're down 20 at the
trade deadline, and we're going to rock what we got. A lot of people thought there's a lot of noise going in early. I know in the group chat we talked a lot about Matisse Thybulle, and that went away real quick. I think in the early morning of the last day of the trade deadline, excuse me. So the Kings stand still, Toddy. What are your thoughts on that?
Did Matisse go to the
Blazers?
Yeah, he went to the Blazers. That's right. Yeah. The Kings, I thought Monty just, being the aggressor that he was in the offseason, him being aggressive in the draft and picking the right guys and Davion Mitchell, obviously picking a Tyrese Halliburton. His track record kind of just screamed that he was going to be a guy that was going to be aggressive at the trade deadline. And I was a little bit shocked to see that the Kings didn't really get anybody. They picked up, I forgot the guy from the Brooklyn Nets. Not too sure. Not too sure about him. But, the Kings were content, I feel like, with their 2 All-Stars. Congrats to De'Aaron Fox on making an All-Star game. And Fox and Sabonis, and them being 3rd in the West, and kind of be like, hey, our team already is solid. So I feel like the Kings are kind of just like, all right, I think our team can compete with anybody. And that's even after the fact Kevin Durant goes to the Suns. Kyrie goes to the Mavs, who's being the Kings right now. And the Lakers kind of going after them, but they're 13th in the West. So the Kings are kind of just like, all right, you guys are kind of like, gearing up to beat, top teams like us. A Memphis, a Denver, the Clippers. You guys have to kind of make these trades because the West is kind of where it's at. And they're, I wouldn't say I'm good in the West like John Morant did, but I was a little shocked that the Kings didn't make any type of moves. I thought, OG kind of being a guy that's been out there in trade rumors and, them not looking at anybody on the Toronto Raptors. You could have looked at a Siakam. You could have looked at a OG Anunoby. After the Kevin Durant trade, I was saying in the group chat, the Kings should probably go after Pascal Siakam, who is an all-star, a guy that's kind of been the guy in Toronto before. I feel like they drafted Scotty Barnes to kind of be the guy. But Pascal Siakam was a guy I was kind of looking at that the Kings should have traded for just based off of the aggression from the Suns. So it's kind of an arms race in the West, but the Kings are in that loaded West that we have been talking about for however many minutes. The Kings are still third, and even after tonight, if they do lose, they'll still be third in the West. So I would have liked, because come playoff time, it's going to come down to your stars versus the other team's stars. The game slows down in the playoffs, and it kind of just comes down. You guys are playing each other 5 times, 7 times, and you're going to have to figure out how are you going to stop this other guy, and you already know what each other are going to do. So it's going to come down to your stars, and the Kings were kind of content in saying, all right, I'm content that Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox are going to be guys that can win us playoff games. So this Kings team, I think, is going to stand. I think they can win a playoff series, but at what cost is that going to be? Are you going to be end up playing Luka and Kyrie in the Mavs? Are you going to play a LeBron in the first round? Shoot, are you guys going to play the Pelicans and Zion Williamson and CJ McCollum, and you got BI coming back from injury? They were a team that was top in the West before Zion Williamson went down. So I think this is what the West is going to look like in the playoffs, and the Kings say, you know what, I think we're good enough to go against these type of teams in the playoffs.
A lot of people can say, they were upset that they didn't make a move at the trade deadline, but that also goes to show that McNair and this Kings team believe that, we saw all the moves. We could have done something, but like you said, we believe we have it in house. In our group chat all year, it was a first round pick, Rashawn Holmes and Harrison Barnes for whatever.
Anybody.
I was like, anybody for everybody, But Harrison been playing well, and a couple games Sabonis has been down. Rashawn Holmes came in there and stepped up. So Toddy asked the group chat if I believe the Kings will get a top 4 seed still. I told him
top 3 seed. Well, Shaun said, he said top 4.
So, but going in with the Mavericks, with Kyrie, like Toddy mentioned, I believe they're gonna skyrocket to the top. I don't know what the Nets or the Suns are gonna do. D-Book's still hurt, and so is Kevin Durant. They're trading for a hurt player. I don't know how that works, but
it's gonna be tough, man. I just think your guys' division is crazy. If you just look at the Warriors. We're not even talking. We haven't even said the defending champs. How dare us? I mean, Steph Curry just went out with injury, bro. Like, you got to look at teams like, you have to be ready, because, like we said, the Kings, it's a 16, 17-year drought, and all these other teams are kind of like, all right, we're getting ready for the playoffs. Midway through the season, we already saw. Steph Curry kind of go down, but the Warriors will probably end up maintaining and figuring out a way when Steph comes back, and just be one of those teams in the West. I feel like they're just a team that you can just get to the playoffs, and we'll kind of just make everything happen. They could be a 7 seed, 8 seed, and they'll still for sure figure out a way how to win. Like we said, LeBron, when he gets in the playoffs, anything, it's a puncher's chance whenever you have a LeBron on your team. PG and Kawhi. I'm just naming duos just in the West. Like I said, Zion, when he's healthy, Zion, BI, CJ, Damian Lillard. We're not sure if the Blazers, like this West is just absolutely loaded. So I think, with the Kings already being in third, they're going to have to figure, because their up and coming schedule I saw was pretty brutal. They play there's a lot of Dallas, there's a lot of Warriors, there's a lot of Clippers, Phoenix. Like, these are teams that you got to figure out a way. You got to be able to compete with these teams, and I wouldn't be shocked if we see the Kings drop a little bit, even if they do have a 3-game lead as of right now. But these other teams in the West, man, they're coming, and they're coming strong, man.
Kings top 6 seed, man. You heard it here first. So another team in the West, like you mentioned, Josh said he's fine in the West. With the way the West uploaded at the trade deadline, and to see the Memphis Grizzlies not do anything, what are your thoughts on Josh? You think they're still fine in the West?
I'm not sure if they're still fine in the West. Like I just mentioned, all these teams Like the Warriors. I feel like the Grizzlies are kind of a team that kind of just a little bit more bark than bite. They haven't really had too much playoff success as of late. I mean, they won a playoff series in 6 games. I feel like, or was it 7 games? I think the game won 7 games. That series did.
It was 7, yeah, with 10.
Yeah. I think this Grizzlies team is second. They're second in the West right now. But I mean, are they better than the Warriors in the playoffs? Do we trust them against Steph, Clay, and Dre? No. I'm picking the Warriors all day, every day. I think they could beat a Lakers team, but are we sold on them beating a LeBron James in the playoffs? No. Are they better than Phoenix now? No. Are they better than Dallas? I think Dallas beats them in a playoff series. The Clippers, can they beat the Clippers? I don't know. So like I'm saying, man, the West is just crazy. They have a bunch of superstars kind of just loaded everywhere. I guess the Grizzlies took Ja Morant's advice and said we're good in the West and we're second right now. We can kind of just make it as we go. Like if you look at if you just pair up against all of those teams that I kind of just named, are the Grizzlies better than a healthy Pelicans team? No. Like, are they better than a Warriors? Are they better than a Phoenix? Are they better than Dallas? Are they better than the Kings? Like, these are real conversations that you kind of got to have going into the playoffs. So there's going to definitely be an upset going, and an upset as far as seeding goes, but as far as player construction, how the team is, I don't think the Grizzlies have enough shooting on their team to kind of go into the playoffs and be comfortable. Ja Morant is he's literally Derrick Rose 2.0, in my opinion. I just don't know what their playoff success will look like. And I'm kind of shocked that they didn't really make any moves. But, when you're second in the West, third in the West, your GMs, your organization kind of looking like, well, these teams are kind of, a Phoenix, they're like, 12th in the West. They got to kind of catch up to us, and we already kind of have the playoff seeding. So I get where all these, these top teams are kind of just like, we don't really have to do anything because our team is already good. So I was a little bit shocked. I thought the Grizzlies were kind of going to end up trading for a Kuzma or a OG type player.
Kuzma, bro.
Yeah. Hey, man, Kyle Kuzma.
Every episode, Kuzma's
averaging 20. He's averaging 22. This is the best statistical year of his career. So he's been
Contract.
playing. He's been playing. He's trying to get to his bag. So, yeah, like I said, I would look out for Memphis to be one of those teams that get upset in the playoffs.
Definitely, man. For them to stay still, I definitely thought they were going to be someone for OG, like you said. Just with Dylan Brooks, I think he's all bark, no bite at this point. He's just more of a problem than he is doing something for you. So I was surprised to see them at the deadline. But the last topic on the show, man, the Raptors, all we talked about all podcast was all their team just getting expanded, them just blowing it up, seeing what they can do. But they go back and they get their old center and Jakob Poeltl that they drafted, developed, but they have to trade him for Kawhi. And if they had to do it again, they would. So what do you think with them bringing in Jakob Poeltl and staying put? What do you think they can do in the East?
I was a little bit, shocked that the Raptors didn't really make any trades this past deadline because we kind of just always saw OG's going to go for 3 first. OG's going to go for 3 first. We saw Van Vliet in trade talks. Gary Trent Jr. was a guy that was in trade talks. I think the only guys that they weren't really considering trading was a Scotty Barnes, and I kind of thought that Siakam was kind of a little bit, teams were flirting with him, but I kind of thought he was a guy that was going to stay put. But Fred VanVleet, he's in a contract year, so I kind of would have thought he's an expiring deal that teams would definitely take. He's probably going to be a guy that probably ends up walking in free agency. So I just thought, Toronto kind of just, lost out on things that, they're probably just going to lose out on guys that just leave in the offseason anyway. So I think their team is solid. They're just not, I don't know. It's very hard to, kind of construct this team. I think this team can kind of, make a playoff push. Definitely that the East is going to have, teams coming out in, Brooklyn. They're going to definitely fall. So that kind of just frees another spot up. And I think that other spot is probably Toronto. You could argue the Hawks are kind of in there. I think the Hawks are somewhere probably like 10th, or they're tied for like 9th or something like that. I just think that this team, it's very weird how they're kind of constructed and how teams were kind of already, you know, scouting them for the team that everybody's gonna go for. They're gonna pick apart. They're gonna poach at the Toronto Raptors, and nothing happened. They kind of just stayed put. So I think probably this summer we'll probably still see a lot of things kind of transpire with Toronto, and guys like Fred VanVleet, and they'll probably make trades this summer, and we'll see how that goes. And I think those off limit guys are definitely Siakam and probably Scotty Barnes, the untouchable guys. Having came off of this is a team that Kawhi Leonard kind of just came in and was a rental, and they ended up winning a championship. So I think ever since then they've kind of just been trying to figure out a way how to get back into title contention. And the team, or Masai Ujiri, kind of just thought that he likes where they're at right now, and he kind of just stayed put. There were other reports kind of just coming out about Toronto that um, Toronto would be a team that would wait until the very last second, to make a deal, and they wouldn't be rushed on, trying to make a deal for this, that, and the third. And, we're kind of seeing, things come out that, Toronto's doesn't have a problem with keeping their guys, and that's kind of what ended up happening. They're a team that they're in limbo right now, so they're in 11th place. So out of 8th place, they're 3 games out of 8th right now, as if the play-in were to start today. So they would be right outside of the play-in. So um, the Raptors are just kind of a team that's in limbo. Not sure if you want to blow it. You're not sure if you want to blow it up. You're not sure if you want to keep all the guys and kind of just make a push for the playoffs. So, shocked to see that this Raptors team didn't make any deals this past deadline.
Yeah, man. I think the only person that was untouchable was Scotty Barnes. I think everybody else can go. When it comes down to the end of it, I think they're trying to build around him, but they still have a team that could compete. I think they just had an off year, so they were lucky enough to get the number 4 pick, and it turned into Scotty Barnes, who was the rookie of the year. So, things kind of flipped. Their timeline kind of got reset, but they're still in a way they can compete. So I was definitely shocked to see them not chip off and stay together. So, Toddy, before we close off episode 14 of Stats Over Politics, is there anything you'd like to throw out there?
Well, Kev, I know you got he's wearing his Eagle shirt. I know you guys can't really see, but he's got the conference. Is this from this year's conference? He already has it in the
I don't even want to say nothing, man.
Do you have any predictions on how the game's kind of going to go on Sunday? Oh, if you guys don't know, the Eagles are playing in the Super Bowl, by the way. They're playing Patrick Mahomes on Sunday. So Kevin's ecstatic. I don't know how many bets he has going on, but I'm pretty sure he has a lot on the line on Sunday.
Kevin's going to be a rich man Sunday, man. Kevin's going to be a rich man. And, Toddy, we got our man Wes back in here, man, staying strong. Justin Jefferson, man, he did win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He did go out there and do his thing, man. And he went up there and
he won Offensive Player of the Year. Yeah,
and then Play of the Year or Moment of the Year or whatever. He went up
there.
He
won both of those too. Yeah, he had a crazy catch this past year too. So
he didn't even write 2 speeches. He was like, I didn't even prepare for this.
Yeah, man. I don't. It's gonna be tough, man. It's gonna be a good game, I think. Mahomes is just a guy, 2-time MVP now. You gotta be nervous going against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. I mean, it's just like that guy's capable of kind of just doing whatever, and you gotta kind of always be on your toes. And going up against a guy, Andy Reid, a great play caller. He's a guy coming off a bye. I would be nervous, but your team is better than the Chiefs. So I kind of get where you're coming from and your confidence level, and just you're gonna see the levels of quarterback play. Jalen Hurts is kind of like, he had an MVP level year, but then there's this guy named Patrick Mahomes who's way up here in a different stratosphere than everybody else. And I think that's kind of going to show. And I don't think Kevin's a little bit nervous at all. He think he's not worried about, Patrick Mahomes tearing him to shreds.
It's not going to happen, man.
I saw Debo. I saw you. Kevin's been very busy on Instagram. He's a closet Niner fan. For the next episode. He's a closet Niner fan. The intro. Who's been posting a lot of stuff about, Debo, Ayuk, and my kicker's talking smack. The kicker was talking smack, saying this, that, and the third.
CMC, Kittle.
I mean, what can you do when you don't have any quarterbacks, man? I got my running back trying to throw the ball out. Kevin's she's posting stuff with Eagles.
Oh, shit.
No
Kings
way.
came back.
What score?
Sorry to cut you off. Thanks for letting us know, Leslie.
They ain't come back. They're still down like 11 or 9. But, I mean, just, when you don't have a quarterback that can, throw the ball or do anything, it's going to be tough to win any game. So, I mean, I'll just quote what my kicker said. When you make Jalen play quarterback, your defense is going to have a great day. He threw for 112 yards against us. That's what Debo said. Because the freaking pass to Devontae doesn't count. So let's just 112. The box score says 121, but he threw for 112. But, I think you guys are going to rely very heavily on Boobie, Gainwell, and what's the other guy's name? Boston Scott. You guys are going to rely, heavily on them. And your D-line play is kind of going to determine what the game's going to look like. Is it going to look like, 3 years ago when Mahomes was kind of running around for his life against the Bucks? I think that's kind of what Kevin is hoping for. But I think their offensive line is better than it was that year. I feel like that offensive line kind of fell apart leading up to the Super Bowl. I think now their offensive line is as healthy as it can be. They have the quarterback edge and they have the tight end edge. But other than that, that's about it. So the Eagles, they're favorites. They're favorites. If you were to bet your money right now and want to make a safe bet, safe bet, air quotes around safe, you'd put your money on the Eagles. But, man, I got Patty Mahomes winning his second Super Bowl. And I think it's going to be a really good game, though. I think it's going to be a really good game.
So for those of you active listeners that tune in every Monday, if you want to hear my response to Toddy's, rant, tune in. Stats Over Politics, episode 15. We will be recapping the Super Bowl. We're all predicting that the Eagles are going to win. So tune in next Monday, 7 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to be there. If you see us on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you see us, go ahead, leave us a like. It helps. It helps us. And you hear this on the audio, give us a 5-star review, and it just helps grow the podcast. Show some support to the pod. We love you guys, and thanks for listening.
Kev's going to be sad on Monday.
Stats Over Politics, episode 14.